So they'll relive the conflict. Many of the symptoms of the first phase will return. The sympathetic tone, this craziness, will come back. And then there's as you come out of the epileptoid crisis, you'll start to reduce edema. You start to reduce some other issues. And what happens is the doctor who trained me says they call this commonly the peeing phase. You urinate excessive amounts of fluid out of the body. You're trying to get rid of edema or swelling in the body. And the brain will start to remove the excessive swelling and such of the organs, and you start returning back to normal. Now, what's very interesting is that there's a very good image of a bear, and I talked about this in the last lecture. There's a bear that's being chased by a helicopter. And the guys are going to shoot the bear for the tag, not for meat, but for just tagging, science, okay? And the bear is running, and you can see the bear, and the bear's running back, it's looking at the helicopter, because it's not normal. Polar bears are not normally chased by helicopters, okay? So it's not part of their evolution, okay? So it is an unexpected event for this animal, all right? It's running, you see the gun, boom, hits the bear. The bear continues to run until the tranquilizer starts to take effect. Then the bear starts slowing down, and then finally the bear falls over. Okay, the helicopter lands, the guys come running over, and what's very interesting to watch is the bear continues to run even while it's starting to fall asleep. And it's breathing, it's going crazy because it's trying to run away. And then finally it passes out. But before it passes out, you'll see the bear go, and then it goes completely relaxed, okay? So what has it done? It's had a stressor, a major stressor, being chased by a helicopter and somebody shooting at it, okay? It gets tranquilized. Nature has given it the ability to play out the stress, to live the stress out to its fullness. So even though it's passing out, it's still in its mind or psyche thinking it's getting away. It says, I'm getting away from the helicopter, no problems, okay? And then it finally says, I got away from the helicopter. I don't know if it actually says this, but it says, I got away from the helicopter, and now I can relax. And boom, it relaxes. And that's why the polar bear, when it wakes up, will just wake up and go away. It won't have, it won't create a cancer or a tumor or something else on it later, because it's lived out that stressor. It's lived out that negative energy and is able to get rid of it and to deal with it properly. Okay? Unfortunately, we also have a similar mechanism within us, but we don't deal with it that way. Okay? Most people, when they have a stressor or a conflict, will internalize it, take it and put it inside. Now, back in the day, if we lived in a community and there was a big stressor, something happened that was really bad for us, we would go see the shaman or the village elder, and they would tell us to do something, like to go in the jungle for 3 days and don't eat anything, just drink some water and look for this type of plant, and this will make you better. Or they would perform some type of ceremony for us. Say, this is, you have to, they called it back then, was it evil spirits or bad omens or whatever. They called it whatever they want, but it was an idea of releasing these unexpected events from our body to get rid of them. Okay? Now, after epileptic or epileptoid crisis has passed, the body returns to a more parasympathetic state. Hormones will normalize, and the scarring of the tissue will occur. And so, just to go over what again, there's 2 phases are divided into 2 parts, as you can see on the chart. So we have the initial event that causes the problem, our body in a sympathetic tone trying to deal with the problem, and then our body deciding at some point, okay, we have to deal with this problem. It goes into parasympathetic tone, but there is a short spike in epileptic crisis, which brings it back into sympathetic, and then as the body deals with it, says, okay, I've dealt with this effectively, bringing it back into more parasympathetic, and then hopefully we're healed, okay, and it doesn't create a problem for us. So what will happen to make disease occur? Well, what they found was there's actually there's a damage that occurs in the various areas of the brain that are affected. So, for example, let's say cancer develops on the breast. Dr. Hammer said he could find an area in the brain that correlates to breast tissue, and that there is a destruction or there's a degradation of the neurons in there. There's another video that shows a laser being zapped into a mouse. Okay, the trauma is that of a laser, so it's a laser beam. It's like surgically removing a section of the brain. But the mouse has an ability to rewire. So after the trauma has occurred, the mouse will rewire. But what's very interesting is the trauma site remains. So even after the mouse is rewired and is able to return to its normal function, there is still a little spot that's showing damage or this destruction. So what they found was these areas correlate to specific organs. So again, by looking at a CT scan, somebody could say, oh, well, you have cancer in a particular area, or disease function in a particular area. And they would be most likely correct. Okay, and there will be a ring that develops. And again, I talk about this ring not being an artifact. Okay, Dr. Hammer states that the body can and will try to heal itself during this conflict. The body doesn't want to be sick. Right? The body doesn't want you to have cancer. The body doesn't want you to have your arm fall off or something like this. The body knows. And this is what's unusual about these cancer ideas or theories is that people say, well, the body is destroying itself. But if the body destroys itself, the cancer would also be destroyed. Isn't that correct? If you die, the cancer dies too. Why would the body do something like that? It doesn't make any sense. Okay. So it's during this healing that the disease will manifest itself in the greatest. So as you start to get better, this is when most people will go to the doctor. So as you start to get better, you remember that epileptoid crisis where there's a spike? That's where you'll get a lot of things returning. You go back into sympathetic tone, and you create a lot of symptoms. And that's when you say, well, maybe I should go to the doctor. Remember all the times you were just tomorrow, right? Free beer tomorrow. You kept putting it off. But now you say, I feel really bad. I want to go to the doctor. And that's when the doctor would then look at you and say, I think you got cancer. Okay? And then what do you normally do? Or what most people do? First of all, that's like you walking into the office and expecting the raise, and then you're just told you're fired, right? So then you have another event, right? That's number one. But what else do you normally do? Let's say you suspect that you had something wrong, so you're not that shocked. What then would you normally do? You would ask the doctor, well, so what do I do now? The doctor says, we need to pound this disease into submission. And so what do? They suppress the symptoms. We need to get these symptoms down as fast as possible because it's going to kill you. And again, there's more and more people now coming out and saying, well, no, actually cancer isn't going to kill you if you do certain things. If you do some other things, of course. But this, again, is a mechanism for the body to try to cure itself because you have pushed things down, and ignored them for so long. Okay? So, Western medicine says there's no repair mechanism for damaged neurons. However, there is an accumulation of nerve cells, but the affected area is more rigid and less elastic. So what happens is after the body does able to overcome and fix these problems, there is a repair that occurs, but it's not as strong as was initially done before. Okay? Moving on, the third law. The conflict contents and how it's experienced will determine which part of the brain is affected. So all this is just, Dr. Hammer had divided the areas of the brain in correlating to tissue. I have the charts and things like that. If you want to get those, no problem, I'll provide them for you. This book also provides a lot of information along with the other one, and I have the big wall chart also, which you can look at the tissues in the area of the brain in which they correlate to. Okay? So each area of the brain is affected by certain pathogens also. And I should use this word cautiously because you think pathogens are disease-causing microorganisms. But in this particular case, Dr. Hammer states that through our evolutionary process, certain things like bacteria, viruses, and funguses came into us as part of our protection. So we develop a load of bacteria or a box of bacteria in our body for our benefit, for our protection. Again, remember I told you the body would start to heal itself? Well, it uses these things like bacteria, funguses, and viruses to get rid of certain things in our body so that we can be whole again. Now, Western science says what? Viruses, bacteria, funguses are bad. You need to get rid of them. They don't belong. If you have a bacteria problem, they give you what? Antibiotic. Virus problem? Antiviral. Fungus problems? Antifungal. Right? They do things to try to destroy these natural organisms in our body that have been developed through eons, through our